Firstly, is government concerned about the outcome of this civil industrial action strike?
Yes, government is concerned, and I believe anyone who is realistic about the state of the economy of the country and the consequences of a strike will be concerned, including those that voted for yes.
At this point in time, does government maintain its position in relation to what you have to offer?
Well, before I say that, let me explain what is that we have to offer. First, let me indicate that the demand from the union was a 5% salary increment plus an increment in the benefits, which was going to be around 1.5 billion Namibia dollars. Government has indicated that at the current state of the economy, it will not be in a position to pay this amount. So the portion of the salary increment constitute about 1.2 billion. Then the benefits, 334.9 million. So government has offered that to the unions, which translates into the following. 7% increment on the housing schemes of those that have bought houses. And you have 14.5% on the housing allowance of civil servants, which is received by those who have not necessarily bought houses.
Yep.
Then you also have about 12% increment on the management cadre benefits that goes to their transport. Excuse me, that will go to their housing.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you have now 14% that goes to the transport allowance for civil servants below management. So that is what government has offered, and that is what government is able to afford, because we know that if we are to pay that 1.5 billion, we'll have to go and borrow again. And when you borrow, you will default on paying. Look at what happened in Sri Lanka. When month end comes, government will not be able to pay the salary of civil servants. Then we say, it will not be of any help to increase the salary of people this month,
and not be
then
able to pay
next month you are unable to pay their salaries. Because when they are unable to pay their salaries, in turn, they will not be able to pay for their houses, they will not be able to pay for their cars, they will not be able to pay for their accounts. You have just now put the country in a problem, plus you have mortgaged the country. And we have a responsibility over the future of our children. If we start mortgaging the country now, putting it into further debts and further debts, our children will have nothing.
It's a real catch-22 situation. As you rightfully put it, government simply doesn't have the funds for it. But then one also understands the plights, of civil servants and their needs as well, especially in these economic times. So at this point in time, is industrial action the only possible way we can see? And also, what indication do we have of how long this may last? Are there any avenues to explore, to perhaps source funds, to perhaps reallocate funds, etc.?
Well, what is happening is that when you vote for a strike, the conciliator would now call the parties to see if there's anything that the party would want to talk before the strike goes on. Now, our team, negotiating team, which comprises the executive directors, is going to meet with the union. I do not want to anticipate what they are going to discuss. But what I would tell you is that if industrial action goes on, the following will happen. The principle of no work, no pay would apply. There will be dire consequences to the provision of services in the country. And all of us are going to be affected, not only government, the private sector, civil servants, and all Namibians at large. And currently, already as we are talking, we also have unemployed Namibians. We must think in a broader picture. As we ask for these demands, let us think in a broader picture that we would have even wanted to create more jobs for the graduates that we find in the streets.
But we haven't been able to do that, Minister Mushelenga.
Yes, that's why I'm saying because of the state of the economy that we find ourselves in, which is not unique to Namibia, but as a result of the global economic dynamics.
Talking about the impact that this would have on the services, we know that essential services will remain operational, but what sectors or services is government most concerned about?
Well, yes, essential services will remain operational, but I assure you all other services that will be affected, they will have a major impact. One, we start with education. It means we are likely to have a high rate of failure for our learners. And it means that these learners would have lost 1 year. So now as parents, as Namibians, we must be aware of this. The supply of services, even including revenue collection. Government will not be able to collect revenue during that time, meaning again a further setback
on state
for
coffers.
the state coffers. We have not solved the problem.
At this point in time, Minister Mushelenga, is there anything more that can be done apart from the offer that entails a 334 million that government has to offer? Is there anything more that can be done at this point to appease the workers?
Well, as I tell you, I do not want to preempt what the government team and the trade union are going to talk about. But suffice to say that when government is in a position to provide, it would provide. But government will not be in a position to provide what it does not have, what it cannot provide.
At this particular point in time?
Yes.
Minister Mushelenga, thank you so much for joining us this evening and providing more insight on government stance with relation to the outcome of the vote.
It's my pleasure.